McNair gives it to George, running right up the middle. Touchdown! Titans! There are no flags on the field! It's a miracle!
Safety, now you're one-on-one with it.
Shows why he's the man! In trouble. Sack!
Ladies and gentlemen, Titan Nation, how's everyone doing today? For the Mr. Titan 101, we have a 13 NFL vet, Super Bowl champion, former host of Good Morning Football, and on top of it all, the most important part, the former Tennessee Titan, we have Jason McCourty, aka J-Mac. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on. I never turned down a chance to talk some football and have some fun.
Well, there you go. This is the part where you can kind of just wind back, talk a little bit about some Titan football, and most importantly, the reason behind doing the interviews and stuff like that is that, we like to know, how our former players are doing, especially one that was invested in the team for so long and stuff. And again, a fan favorite. So always like to hear what's happening with you. So again, thank you so much for coming on, bro.
No problem, man. No problem.
All right, let's kind of dive into it. Again, had some technical difficulties a little bit earlier, but we got this going. Talking about, you're from New York, right? You were born and raised in New York?
Yep.
Yep. All right. What part?
I grew up in Rockland County, so grew up in New York and then went to high school in New Jersey and then went over to Rutgers in New Jersey. So now I rep both states wherever I'm at. So I'm a Northeast guy through and through, but love my time in the South. All three of my kids were born in Tennessee. Me and my wife, she's from Jersey. We met at school, but we got married in Tennessee and all of that. So that became a second home for us.
Cool. Was born in Secaucus, so I know.
Okay.
Yes, I know exactly. I'm in Texas now. Totally different. It's a different vibe, and people don't get it though. I went from Jersey to Miami, and then Miami to Texas, and we were talking about it. My supervisor is from New York, and we're talking about how different the Chinese food is in the East Coast. It's completely different. People don't understand it. They really don't. They're like, "What are you talking about?" I don't know what it is. It's the Italian food and it's the Chinese food up north. I haven't had good Chinese food since like
no doubt about it. It's Chinese food, it's pizza, and it's breakfast sandwiches. Breakfast sandwiches only happen in the Northeast, where you go and you can get eggs made fresh and get whatever you like, bacon, sausage, any of those things. You leave the Northeast and you go somewhere, it's the pre-made eggs, and it's just a totally different experience. So I 100%, I'm right. You have to be from this area to truly understand that statement.
Oh, 100%. And a lot of people, like I said, Miami, I remember having Chinese food in Miami. I just couldn't get it right. Texas, they have a couple spots, but again, it's nothing is compared to East Coast. I think it's something in the water. I don't know what it is, Jason, but whatever it is, I can't wait. I'm going back in September. My mom's birthday. She wants to go to New York and hang out there. Okay. That's the first thing I'm doing. I'm hitting up the Chinese spot, hitting up the Italian spot. Like, you got to. It's a must, man.
I love that.
Now, growing up in New York and stuff, and again, you have your twin brother Devon and stuff. How was that growing up? What sports did you guys play? I know that you guys lost your dad in an early age and stuff, and your mom took care of you guys. How was all that growing up, especially back then?
Man, for us, a very normal and loving childhood. As my twin brother Devin, and we have an older brother Larry, and we had a ton of fun. Single mom ran the house. She was a disciplinarian. We knew whenever she was always going to have the last say. Me and Dev always used to. Our biggest fights came one-on-one basketball and video games, and my mom would always say, if she gets involved, she's going to be the one to end the fight. So we were a family that we had everything we needed, didn't have everything that we wanted or desired. But we didn't know that as kids. There was always a ton of families in our area. We were always outside playing sports, whether it was kickball, wiffle ball, basketball, football, tag, capture the flag. We were always doing something. And I think that kind of built the competitive nature up of Dev and myself that eventually got us to where we got to. But we were big basketball and football guys. We started playing football at the age of 10 because our older brother signed us up and he loved football and he was going to get us into it. And that's what we played all the way through high school, both basketball and football. And then obviously when we got to Rutgers, focusing on football, getting scholarships and all of that. But just a lot of fun and a lot of love in our household growing up and a lot of discipline. So I'm trying to echo and follow the ways that my mom set forth for me and my brothers growing up. And now with 3 kids, I'm trying to do the same thing in my household.
There you go, man. There you go. Were you you're saying playing basketball? So were you a Knicks fan?
Nope. I was an Orlando Magic fan growing up. Penny Hardaway was my guy. I was through and through Penny Hardaway, Butch and Blue Chips and all of that. So I grew up a Magic fan. And now I'm just an NBA fan. Like I just watch for the love of the game. But yeah, growing up, big Penny Hardaway fan.
Penny Hardaway. They had, like I said, they had a squad back then. Again, I was a big, like I said, Jersey. The Knicks were the 90s. Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley. You had that whole squad. That was the team I would always represent. I loved it. Going from that on, playing sports. When did you start to really come into being like, hey, football is going to be like once you got into college, or was a little bit of high school like, hey, this might be something that I'm looking forward to as a career?
Man, I think it wasn't until I was getting ready to come out, probably my junior year, that you realize that it could become a reality. Now, don't get me wrong, like I was good in Pop Warner like any other player that got to college football or professional ranks. We were all good in Pop Warner, and people were telling you how good you were. And in high school, it was the same. And I think we all had that dream. And as long as you were having some success, it was always a possibility. But I think for me, where it really became real was my junior year when some guys ahead of me got opportunities in the league, whether it was undrafted or late round draft picks. You look up and you're like, damn, I know I can play right alongside those guys. So if they're getting that opportunity, I know I'm going to have my shot as long as I do what I have to do. So I would say going into my senior year was just like, man, just keep your head down, keep on trucking along. And when you look up, you're going to be right where you want to be. So for me, coming out and knowing I was going into the draft and I was going to be a late round draft pick, but just getting the opportunity to go to Nashville and try to earn my keep, I would say junior year was when it became like, man, I actually think I have a chance to do this.
And you, when the draft happened, you didn't receive an invitation to the NFL Combine, right?
Nah, no invite to the Combine. That was at the time. It hurt. You don't really understand. You don't understand the process really. So you're just thinking each step of the way, like you got to check those boxes. So all right, I got to do well my senior year. All right, the agents start calling. I have to figure out who my agent's going to be. All right, next step, where am I going to train? All right, once you start training, the next step, all right, the Combine invite. And when that didn't happen, it was just one of those things for me. I was already going in knowing I was going to have a chip on my shoulder. I was going to have to outwork people. So it was just something else to add to the list of to go out there and prove people wrong. And once I started training, I always knew I could run. So once I started seeing what my times were, it was just a focus on pro day. And I trained out in Chicago at a place called EFT. And I had some great trainers that poured into me that, and when I didn't make it to the Combine, your training typically stopped in February, and they made it happen that I stayed a whole extra month and stayed training there until my actual pro day at the end of March. And I went out there and killed it. And it was the only reason I got a chance to get drafted in the first place.
That was the Rutgers pro day, right?
Yep.
And you were alongside, which is crazy, is Kenny Britt, right? Kenny Britt was another person, and that's wild to see that. Did you have a relationship with Kenny at that time, or no?
Yeah, of course. Kenny came in a year after us, and we were the guys on campus between my brother, Taekwon Underwood. Whenever we had a big time recruit come in, we were the guys hosting the recruit. So I hosted Kenny on his visit, and Kenny was the same way as a bug-eyed senior in high school as he was as a rookie in Tennessee. And we built our relationship throughout. And a lot of it was competition of our relationship of one-on-ones in practice, going against each other constantly every single day. And he was the first round draft pick on 2009 of the Tennessee Titans. And when he got there, our DB coach at the time, Marcus Robertson, went up to him and asked him about me, and they were thinking about drafting me late. And Kenny said, "Go get him. I'm the receiver I am," because him and his brother whooping on me in practice and going against each other head to head every single day. So, yeah, KB, that's my guy. We to play 3 years together in college and then get a chance to play 5 years together in Tennessee. Then we got back together in Cleveland. So we played a ton of our professional and college careers together as teammates.
That's pretty wild. Just to see how kind of that transition, and like, I mean, it's like you never know what can happen, right, in life, and that's pretty cool to see that. I think you're the only two guys from Rutgers that actually did that. I think you're also, when you did your 40 your dash, I think you were the fastest one, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it.
He's like, no doubt, 100%, right? That's awesome, man. Now, after the draft, then getting picked up by the Tennessee Titans, who was the first person you contact? What was kind of like that transition from college to football and getting into the Tennessee Titans? Who was the first person that you met?
Man, there was no first person in contact for me. When you're drafted at the end of the 6th round, there is no, like, you see when guys get drafted, whether it's J.C. Latham this year or Skronsky last year, you usually see him come in on the private plane, and the head coach is there to meet him, and Amy Adams Strunk is there, Rand's there. When I got drafted, like, I was on a Southwest flight. I remember seeing Gerald McGrath on my layover in Atlanta. We got on a plane together. There was no, it was a totally different experience. I just know the draft call, you go through that process, GM and Fisher gets on the phone and all of that, but there was no first point of contact. You get there for rookie minicamp and stuff, and you start trying to make a name for yourself with the playbook and all of those different things. So at that point, I just remember it being kind of a whirlwind because everything just happens at once. You get drafted, you're fired up, you're excited, your family's happy for you. And, oh, you're going to be a Tennessee Titan. And then reality hits, and it's just like, damn, I got to go to Nashville and make this team. Like, I could be a Tennessee Titan for all of 3 months if I don't make the team after training camp. So it's such a different experience for different guys. And you kind of get in where you fit in, and you understand something. For me, one of my mentors when I got to Tennessee was Chris Hope, and he always used to say to me, run your own race. And that was something I learned early on because we got there for off-season workouts. Kenny was my roommate, but me and Kenny were in 2 totally different boats. Kenny's a 1st-round draft pick. I'm a 6th-round draft pick. So understanding there might be some things that he can do and get away with that if I do, I'm out the door. So that's something that doesn't matter what year it was, 2009, to the guys that are coming in now and 2024, that still applies. You kind of got to know where you are and what you need to do to be successful and run your own race. That piece of advice that I got, I think it echoes true even today.
Yeah, 100%. And you can tell by nowadays, right? Like you said, like they get the plane, they get the pictures taken. You see the little video, the Instagram, they're coming out of the plane. And back then, it wasn't like that. It's more of like a showcase now, right?
Yeah, well, social media has made it that, because even back then, guys were still doing that, and you'd see the press conferences. And I remember even when my brother got drafted in 2010, he was out on the field with the Crafts as the owners, and he's holding up the #1 jersey. It's just now, especially the Titans, I give them a ton of credit. Social media team is elite. They do such a great job of cutting that stuff up because, listen, like, that keeps the fans engaged. When you get a guy, a J.C. Latham this year, and you know you need help on an offensive line, and you're watching him at practice, and he's moving whatever that machine is that they're hitting, they're driving the power and all of that. When you're a Titans fan, you see that, you get fired up about it. So I give them credit, and that's to all 32 teams, of realizing as times change, you have to change and keep fans engaged and do all of those little things to make the organization run.
100%. Yeah, I think its name is Big Bertha, right? Big Bertha or something.
Yeah.
Like some with a funny name, but you made your professional regular season debut, Titans opener against the Steelers. Can you kind of do like a quick rundown of basically that whole day leading up to the game, and maybe your first play, if you remember just anything about that day, man?
Yeah, I was just on special teams. So it was the first play was a kickoff, only play was a kickoff or a punt or a kickoff return. But I think the reality of when I first stepped out on the field, of you look up in the stands, And it's the realization of like, I'm in the NFL. And probably the most memorable thing from that game was in college, you get your 4 tickets a game. And if you need more tickets, you're hitting your teammates up. Some guys are from out of state. They don't need any of their tickets. So you're finding ways to get more of your family members. But when you get to the league, you can get as many tickets you want. You just pay for them. So my first ever game, it's in Pittsburgh. That's a drive away from my family. So my mom, my uncle, my older brother, I think my aunt, different people all came out to the game. So I hit up our ticket people. I get tickets and give them to my mom and all of that, leave them at will call. And my biggest thing was after the game, my mom and my family was just like, man, we were all the way at the top of the stadium. And as a rookie, you have no idea where away tickets are. And little did I know that the away tickets, their families and everybody sit at the top of the stadium. So that was probably the most memorable thing. And as you go, you learn that when you're playing those away games, you got to go on the Rolodex, go on the phone and find guys that are on that team that you know, and you buy your tickets from those guys. So it was a learning experience in itself, but a really cool experience being there at that game. Probably my biggest memory was how good Big Ben was. Troy Polamalu had a one-hand interception in that game. It was and obviously you're playing for the Titans, you want to win. But as a young rookie, as a young pup, like you're seeing some of your idols and superstars out there on that football field that are making play after play, which was really cool as a rookie.
Was there anyone after that you really, really wanted to meet that you were excited to go against, maybe like especially in your rookie year?
Nah, you know what's crazy? I talk to my brother about this all the time. Like now you see games and you see whether it's the Micah Parsons or whoever out there and they're doing the jersey exchange and they're signing them and they're like, we didn't do that. Like that wasn't like a popular thing to do. I don't think I exchanged jerseys. It was probably like my 9th year in the league was the first year I ever did it. And I was a little bit old school in the sense of like when I lost the game, like, yeah, you would go shake hands and stuff. Like I didn't want anybody's jersey. I didn't care about any of that. But I didn't meet or think to meet anybody at that time. For me, it was just cool to be out there on the football field. And it was almost bigger to me after spending those months in training camp with all of the guys on our football team of putting on the same jersey as them and being on the same football field and different guys and veterans in that point having the trust in me to even be out there. I think I was on like our prevent package late in the game and late in the first half, and Cortland Finnegan gets an interception. He's trying to return it. Like me being out there on the field on defense with those guys, whether it was Nick Harper or Cortland Finnegan or Chris Holt or Michael Griffin, Keith Bullock for me. Keith Bullock is from Rockland County. So I grew up with the thought of thinking I could make it into the NFL because Keith Bullock did it. And we all knew his name. We all knew who he was. So for me to be in the same locker room, be on the same field as Keith was insane. So I'm looking at him and I'm just like, how the hell am I out here on the same field as him? So to me, that was the cooler thing at that time than even thinking about trying to meet like Troy Polamalu or Big Ben or any of those guys, Hines Ward, that was on the other side of the field.
Now, since you guys were both from New York, did you gravitate? Because I've had a couple of Titan players, even like I know I had Bo Scaife on, and Bo Scaife said that how Keith commanded that locker room presence, that he was such a big key to that defense, or just in general a team captain. Would you say that about Keith?
Oh, Keith was the loudest person in the room, no matter what room he walked into. So 100%, Keith worked out in the weight room. He was New York through and through. He had on his Timbs and red gloves every time he was in the weight room. And 100%, he talked the most trash at practice, no matter who was the quarterback, whether it was VY or Kerry Collins, he was going to be the loudest guy out there. And people followed him. And for me, so when I first got there, he always called me home team. So definitely gravitated towards him. But for me, it was like being around the DBs, Vinny Fuller, Cortland Finnegan, Chris Hope, who I mentioned, Michael Griffin, Rod Hood ended up coming towards the end of my rookie year. When Rod Hood got there, instantly he saw me and he would coach me up on every single thing I did just because I was a rookie. So it was instrumental for me to have those guys in my locker room. But when I say I did everything Chris Hope did, C. Hope used to get in the cold tub after practice, so I got in the cold tub. He watched film with the DB coach, so I watched film with the DB coach. everything he did, and David Thornton was there too. Well, I used to just listen to those guys tell stories, and Cortland Finnegan was a guy that I just watched and I tried to emulate as much as possible. So I was lucky that I had guys right in my DB room that their work ethic was unmatched and they had already done the things that I wanted to accomplish. Chris Hope had won a Super Bowl already. He had got paid by the Tennessee Titans. I wanted those things. Cortland Finnegan was a 7th-round draft pick out of Sanford who got there, earned his keep, and got a second contract. So those guys had done things that I got into the NFL and I wanted to accomplish. So I had some really, really good guys to look up to and learn from.
Nice, man. Again, a solid group of guys that you just mentioned, man. They just been thinking about that, and I mean, having that DB group is amazing and good players. Is there any player that you like going against that you kind of like, for competition wise that you liked always playing, or no, not really? It was just kind of next man up, next man up.
Well, nah, playing in that division, I mean, going against Andre Johnson every year, and Andre Johnson, whether it was Reggie Wayne, Pierre Garcon, like when you're going against guys like that, and I mean, I played against Peyton Manning my rookie year. It was the cold blue game. I was like, I think I remember what Sunday Night Football, like Dallas Clark's out there, all of those guys. When you get a chance for me playing against those guys, and then as it continued to go on, DeAndre Hopkins comes into the division. So you can just go on and on. Kevin Walters was on the other side when I was a young guy, and Cortland Finnegan was following Andre. I was on the other side going against Kevin. So there was so many guys that you went against twice a year in that division. That was so much fun. I tell people all the time, Pierre Garcon, he was a guy that ran his routes hard, blocked hard. You knew when you played against him, you had to go 100% every single play. So there's a ton of respect to a lot of guys that were in that division that I look forward to playing week in and week out.
Who is the best QB that you think you ever faced? I mean, I think you're probably going to go with Tom Brady, right?
Peyton Manning. And
Manning
a
got
lot of it, yeah, and it's no slight to Tom, but when you got to go against Peyton twice a year and he's in your division, it is difference. And I'm saying that with the fact that, what's up, little man? That's what I'm talking about. I'm
Flores.
saying that with the fact, what's your name, man?
Say hi. You're landed? Yeah, go inside. I'm telling you, man. It he always every time I'm in the garage, and every time, I mean, he hears it, he's going in, and he'll just
I
hang.
love that.
Sorry
He's
about that.
he's gonna be hosting something sometime soon after watching what you're doing. But yeah,
Hey, man.
100%. Just so many different guys to learn from. So much fun to have. And going against Peyton was. I remember when I first got there, when it was Colts week and Peyton Manning week, we get like a packet this thick of all the symbols that they had as signals that they had assembled throughout the years and ways to beat them. We had a totally different game plan where we'd wear wristbands and we changed wristbands at halftime, and they all had a number on them, 1 through 6. And our D coordinator would just hold up a number on the sideline, and you'd have to look at your wristband, because if we signaled, Peyton Manning would pick up on our signal. It was like so much fear of just Peyton Manning week that it was unbelievable. And he got them in the right call every single time. And I'm saying that my rookie year, we lost to Tom Brady in Foxborough 59-0. So I'm a ton of respect. I had got a chance to be teammates with Tom. You talk about greatness. He is the greatest of all time. But my time with the Titans playing against Peyton Manning was not fun at all.
You know what? You're not the first defensive Titan that said that before. Gerald McGrath said the same thing. Donnie Nicky, same thing.
Donnie.
Yeah, Donnie's a good people. And Bernard Pollard, same thing. It was always Peyton Manning. It was always Peyton Manning. I'm like, damn, like that's crazy that, everyone has that, he just knew the cadences. He knew, I know Donnie said that, you had to switch it up. You couldn't show exactly what defense you had because he'll pick you apart real quick.
Yeah, we played them when he was in Denver, and Michael Huff was a safety for Denver, and obviously him and Griff were teammates at Texas for a while and won a lot of games there. And they ended up beating us 50-something to whatever in Denver. And Griff's talking to Huff after the game. He's like, yeah, after the first quarter, like Peyton knew every signal that you guys had. And it was just a wrap after that. He'd get to the line of scrimmage, wait for the DB coach to give you guys a signal, get them right in a perfect play, and they were off to the races.
Yeah. It's funny thing mentioned, I had Michael Griffin on, and he almost said something similar to that to the Patriots game, and Michael Griffin said that they didn't have the right equipment that game, that the cleats, and you guys were slipping everywhere. And he was like, yeah, it was terrible. He was like,
It didn't matter what the hell we had on. They were out there throwing flea flickers. We didn't stand a chance in that game. When we got off the bus, it was a wrap. So that was the game. I remember warming up and pregame where we had our shorts on, hoodies and all of that, and it was a downpour, just rain constantly. We go in, we change, put our equipment on, we come out for pregame, and it's just snow all over the place. So we were not ready for those elements. It didn't matter what it was. They beat the brakes off us. That was like a real welcome to the NFL. I played against Brady and Manning back to back as a rookie, and Cortland Finnegan, Nick Harper, and Vinny Fuller all got hurt. It was a week or two prior to that, so end up starting in those games. I didn't think I was gonna make it in the NFL, so it was a baptism by fire.
Yeah, that was rough, man. But talking about your years in Tennessee, you kind of went through a nice change of command with coaches, right? You went from Jeff Fisher, Mike Munchak, Ken Wisenhunt, and Mike Mularkey, right? Can you, I guess, go just some short summary on each of the coaching and what you liked and what you saw and the change of, I guess, tone in the locker room with each new coach that came in?
Yeah, well, the wild thing is, to your point, 8 years there, 4 different head coaches, 3 different general managers. And when that stuff happens, like each coach comes in, they take everything off the wall, they put the new signs up, and it's just like, all right, like here we go again. With Fish was a player's coach, man. Fish was going to take care of your body. The guys are going to be able to laugh. Fish had him and our weight room coach, Steve Waterbug, one of the best to ever do it. Man, the pranks that they would pull on guys in the locker room, a Thanksgiving prank that we used to do every year. They used to prank a practice squad guy that he was going to the Pro Bowl every year. Like, you were going to have fun in that locker room with Coach Fisher. And it was very much a player-led football team. So my rookie year, we start 0-6, and then we rattle off 8 out of the. And that team had Keith Bullock on it. We had Kevin Mawai on it, Kyle Vandenbosch. So we had so many veterans there that kind of paved the way and set the tone in the locker room. And then that very next year, all of those guys leave. And it was completely different. And we lacked that leadership. And that wasn't kind of how Fish got down. And that was kind of the downfall of it all, because we didn't have those veterans in the locker room that would tell a guy to shut up or would lead in that right. And I thought when Munchak took over, Munch is my guy. I love Munch because Munch was an O-line coach forever, and he became a head coach, and Munch was trying to do it the right way. I think he saw what was going down, obviously, from Oilers to Titans throughout the years, and I think he knew what it took, but there was a lot of other circumstances to be able to figure it out. And obviously, throughout my years there, we never got the quarterback to take us over the top. And when you don't win games, there's going to be constant change right there. And I remember Munch's last year, there was with Jake Locker. Jake was in his 3rd or 4th year. He already had multiple offensive coordinators. They wanted Munch to change a coordinator again. So it was a lot of stuff going on. And then Wisenhunt comes in, and Wisenhunt was a guy that was a proven guy, was in a Super Bowl in Arizona, and he comes in with his system. And I felt like the system he was trying to run, we never had the guys to run his system, and we never adapted to what we had. So it just never worked. And I think being in that locker room, guys felt that way. I think there was frustration probably from Wisenhunt and his staff, and it just never felt right. Even as a player, I think Bernard was with us that year. We were both captains, and we would sometimes leave and was just like, this ain't it. Like, this isn't working. Like, Wiz is a good coach, but for our team and what we had, it just never clicked. And I think when Mularkey took over, Mularkey had success because I think he got a year and a half of watching everything that was transpiring with Wiz. I think Mularkey was a guy taking notes, and it was just like, all right, like, off the span of that last year and a half, I know exactly what we need to get better instantly. And sucked for me of we got better in 2016, 9-7, missed the playoffs. I ended up getting released that very next year. They ended up making the playoffs, and the team started to go in the right direction. And then obviously when Vrabel came in, he took it to another level. But yeah, you learn something from each coach, and you figure it out as you go. But going to New England and seeing having the same thing for so many years and seeing how it can kind of come into place and make sense, similar with Vrabel came in and that consistency, and hopefully that continues to happen with Callahan, of when you have that and you get the year after year to build, you can really improve on those 8 years of all the coaches and GM changes. It's hard to really set a foundation and grow it.
Yeah, basically building a structure and going from there and continuing, right? I mean, look at New England. Look at the Steelers. You know, Tomlin's been there for how long? So, I mean, it shows. 2017, right? They released you after 8 seasons. You rejected a pay cut. How did that go? What, they wanted you to stay for a certain amount, or what? If you want to talk about it. If you don't want to, you don't have to talk about it. I'm just
no, I'm open, but the league is a business. What's happened to me happens to players every single day. Yeah, it was that was tough. To the point, I think every player that plays any sport, your dream is to do what my brother did in New England, 13 years with the Patriots. If you can play with one organization and finish your entire career there, you feel like it's a storybook ending. And I remember in year 7, I was going into my last year after we finished that year and was trying to figure out, all right, what are they going to do? I have no more guaranteed money on my contract. And you go into it and they're like, oh, I remember I knew the writing was on the wall when we were trying to get Logan Ryan to come in free agency. And Logue's a Rutgers guy. I missed playing with him, but we had trained together in the offseason, so I knew Logue well. And the whole time we were trying to get him, he ends up calling me towards the end of the process just to pick my brain on what it was like in Tennessee. And at that point, like, he was on the verge of coming. So he was talking to me about like what it could be like. And I said to him, I'm like, I remember getting off the phone and telling my wife, like, yo, I was just talking to Logue. And she was like, so they're recruiting Logue to come here. You know Logue well, and you're not a part of the process. She was just like, that's not looking too good for our time in Tennessee. And I remember saying that to Logue, like, I'm probably not going to be here just the way all of this thing shakes out. But that happened. That was March of free agency. And what pissed me off at the time the most about it was I wasn't released until about 10 days until the draft. And that was the part that really sucked, because for any guy, I think being released is going to hurt, but it is what it is. It's a business. You're not Hope and Cortland used to tell me all the time, at some point, this game's going to humble you no matter who you are. And that was my time. I just wish it could have happened in March going into free agency, so it would have at least given me a chance to maximize whatever my market was going to be, because that was the toughest thing. When I got released, we had teams reach out and everybody was, all right, we'll wait. We want to wait and see. We're so close to the draft, how everything shakes out. And then once the draft happens, you're waiting to see what each team has. And I ended up signing with Cleveland. That was probably towards the end of May. They had some injuries to a draft pick that they had, a 4th rounder there, and I ended up signing there and obviously playing the season there before going to New England. But yeah, that was tough. 8 years, and then it's the reality of it. You're there one day and the next day you got a big garbage bag and you're cleaning out your locker and you're moving on. And for me, Griff had got released or didn't sign back the year before. Vern had left from free. So like, you understood Cortland. I remember when he left and Hope left. So when you see it happening to guys around you, you know, you're not any different than them, and it's prone to happen to you too. So it was just my time. I enjoyed the hell out of my 8 years there, and still have a lot of friends and different people on the staff in that building that I love and talk to often when I'm in town.
Yeah, I think the organization handled things a lot differently back then compared to now, where it's a little bit, even though, like you said, it's a business side, I understand it, but I think having it where there's too many like ending bad relationships. You know, Griff, I mean, he talked to me about his story and how they ended his contract and his career and stuff like that. And it's like, I guess, a bad taste in players' mouths, you know, that they do. So now I feel like it's a little bit more, I guess, professional, I guess. I don't know how to.
And it's It's all part of it. I think for all of us, there's so much emotion involved. So when you're in the thick of it, like you're pissed, and then as time goes on, you can take a step back and take it for what it's worth. Even in my situation, for them, it was just all right. Well, we're not going to release him until we probably feel like, all right, once Logan signed, all right, well, now we feel like, all right, now our draft board is done. All right, now we feel like we're going to draft. They drafted Adoree Jackson in the first round that year. So even when they came to me to ask me to take a pay cut, it was a pay cut that they knew I wasn't going to take. It made no sense for me to take the pay cut and them telling me I'm going to be the 5th cornerback on the depth chart. It's like, all right, well, you're not going to keep an 8-year vet who's 5th on the depth chart. You're going to keep a young guy to play special teams. So it was one of those situations where it's like, well, we want you to take a pay cut, but in reality, like, you're not going to take this. We're going to release you, and it's just time to move on. So I think in the moment, like, you're pissed and you feel really bad, and then as you step away, you're just like, yo, it is what it is, and
Mhm.
you go.
I think you muted yourself. I don't hear you. I think you muted yourself.
Ah.
There you go. You muted yourself for a second. So the last maybe like 10 seconds splurge, I didn't hear anything. Oh no, here we go. Ask to unmute. No, I don't hear you still. There we go. Hello.
Why it keeps muting me?
Yeah, it was strange. The last 10 seconds I didn't hear you.
Let me see. Let me unplug this microphone.
No, I didn't hear you again. Yeah, I think I hear you now.
You hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
You got me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I'll just do it with this. I don't know what the hell is going on.
No, that's all right, man. Going back to after you went to Tennessee Browns, and then 2018, right? You went to the New England Patriots. Everybody wants to know, right? The whole, I guess, dynamic from like from the top GM all the way down, the structure, the difference between that organization and how they handle things compared to Tennessee.
You always get that question, especially for me leaving Cleveland, where you don't win a single game, then you win the Super Bowl. And it's like, well, what's the big difference? And every organization, even you can compare the Kansas City Chiefs now to the New England when they were there winning for the past 20 years. And two winning organizations are going to be completely different because a lot of it is ran by the head coach. And Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, both magnificent coaches, do it in different ways. And the biggest thing when I got to New England, I saw was Belichick was the guy at the time that was running things and everybody moved in the same direction. And it seems really simple of just like, yeah, of course, like any company that you have a CEO and everybody. But I think when you get away from that and you have a head coach who's moving in one direction, but your defensive coordinator has ideas of what he thinks the team should look like. So when he gets in front of the defense, he's telling his guys one thing. And then, well, the DB coach doesn't always agree with the defensive coordinator because he thinks when we run this coverage, it should be ran that way. When you have those little cracks within, whether it's top or it's the bottom, that's where you start to see things going in a different direction. And that was probably the main thing I saw in New England, where you had Bill, who had a huge hand in building the roster and then obviously coaching the team, and things just seem to intertwine and go well together. And I tell people all the time, what I give him a ton of credit for was he was good at building teams in regards to chemistry and personality fits, of knowing exactly where they did a good job of keeping their nucleus in that organization. As times moved on, they kept the Dante Hightowers, the Devon McCourtys, the Matthew Slaters, the Edelmans, the Gronks. Those guys were signing the second and third contracts. And yes, some guys were leaving, and they'd bring in just the right amount of veterans to come in and patch and piece it together, and then have it kind of fulfill with some of the draft picks and all of that for so long. And it worked out. And I felt like whether I was in Cleveland, whether I was in Tennessee at the time, you were trying to put that together where downstairs you may have a coach who's moving in this direction and say, all right, I think this guy's good at that position, or here's a need we need a free safety. And then you end up drafting a strong safety. So now you're trying to plug and play and figure it out. And sometimes it didn't always go together.
Gotcha. And you said that would probably be the main thing.
Yeah, because people look at it, and I remember when I got to New England, it was just like, I remember seeing Chad Ochocinco at the Super Bowl in Atlanta, and he was like, man, it was just too militant for me. I couldn't get with it. And for me, it was the opposite. Like, I came from Cleveland where Hugh Jackson had us showing up to every meeting where we had to have brown shorts on, a gray shirt. You had to be 5 minutes early to every meeting. And we didn't win a single game because none of that translated on the field to X's and O's and outperforming and out executing your opponent. Where in New England, you weren't late to it. If a meeting started at 8, no one was late until it was 8:01. You wore whatever the heck you wanted to meetings, building care what you had on at practice, as long as you had on the proper equipment. It was like, when we get between the white lines, do you know what you're supposed to do? And can you get your job done? Like, that was it. Like, it didn't care about any of the other things. So you think it's going to be a certain way. And for me, and I don't know, I was in my 10th year by the time I got there. I just wanted to win. So it was just like, all you want me to do is work hard and practice. I can figure that out. So everybody's experiences are different in different places. And I say all to say, like, my time in Tennessee, we didn't win nearly as much as I would have liked to, especially for the fans that were there in Tennessee. But like, I wouldn't give those 8 years up for anything. If I would have had it my way, I would have played all 13 years as a Tennessee Titan.
100%. And like I said, you're still, to us, you wear the two-tone blue, you're gonna wear it forever, regardless. I mean, yes, we're happy. It's almost like a Derrick Henry situation. Like, the player did so well. Like, you as a player were so good in Tennessee. Yeah, the teams, some had their moments, right? You know, they weren't the greatest Tennessee Titans teams, but we wanted to see you succeed so bad that, hey, if this means you going to another team, hey, go get your chip. You deserve it. Same thing with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry leaving the Ravens. Hey, if he can win a chip, man, he's still a Titans in my heart. I mean, this is, personally speaking, I have no ill will. I get it. Go get your chip. That's, you know what,
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So the biggest difference between me and Derrick Henry, people loved me because I was decent on really bad teams. Derrick Henry was elite on elite teams. So there's a difference with it, but a lot of love either way.
But talking about, let's talk about playing, with your brother. Several players have done that where they've been, brothers play on the team, but, you winning a Super Bowl ring, all that. Let's talk about that 2018, because I've seen an interview with your mom, and I remember her talking about how she had the divide, right? She had the Titans, and then she had the Patriots. So now what did she do when you guys were both Patriots? You guys just McCourty and that's it?
She had the 30 and the 32, one on the front, one on the back. She had 2 jerseys. She had it bedazzled and all of that. That was a dream come true. I think you look at it, and I remember, what year was that? Whatever year, Dev, I think, won the Super Bowl in 2015. So that offseason, Rustin Webster was our GM at the time, and Dev was a free agent. And I remember during that legal tampering period, and this was probably day 2 of it or whatever. It was like towards the last hour. I remember Rustin calls me about Dev and getting him to Tennessee. And I'm like, damn, he already narrowed it down to 2 teams, and the offer that they're talking about to my agent, I'm like, we're way out of the ballpark. But like, that was like a glimpse of the possibility of playing together. There was another year where I guess that was 2015, where I was dealing with a little bit of a groin injury. I missed some games or whatever. And during the trade deadline, I think Schefter had tweeted out that there was a possibility that the Patriots were looking to trade for me to go to New England. And it was just like, me and Dev were texting each other. And he's like, nah, like, people in the building are saying this is real. It could possibly happen. And I remember at that time, it was just like, dang, we might get a chance to play together. And when all of those times failed, then when I got released in 2017 to 2016 by the Titans, that 2017 season, the Patriots had reached out and we had talked to them, but they had at that time they had already signed Stephon Gilmore to a big deal. They had Eric Rowe, they had Jonathan Jones, they had Malcolm Butler. Like they had plenty of corners, and they were they wanted to bring me in, but it was just like for me personally at that time, it made no sense to sign. They just were too deep. So after that 2017 off season, me and Dev were just like, it's probably not going to happen. I was going into year 9. He was in year 8. Like at that point, it was just like, and then for it to happen the offseason after 2017 organically without us really doing anything and it happened in a trade, it was really cool. And just the way it went down, I remember when in Cleveland at the time, and Sashi Brown was the general manager who brought me in. Andrew Berry was there at the time. And we end up firing Sashi Brown throughout the season. And then John Dorsey takes over. I remember Dorsey calls me and they had signed TJ Carey that went out and got some corners. And he was like, they were going to release me to give me a chance to, get a head start on free agency and all of those different things. And it probably didn't help at the end of the season, a year before I said how I felt in the media. I was trying to get the heck up out of there. And Dev calls me and he says to me, welcome to the New England Patriots. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And he had called, text Bill, and text Bill, 2 McCourtys are better than 1. And Bill calls him like 30, 45 minutes later and was like, we just traded for your brother. We don't want to go through the free agency stuff. We're just going to get him over here. And that for us, I mean, you dream about doing that as a kid. And it was a little bit of a roller coaster early on of making the team and all of those different things. But in that first year, for me to make the playoffs for the first time and then get to a Super Bowl and actually win it, and to have family and my wife, for her to be there with our 3 kids, and my wife had been through it all, the winless season, the 2-14 in Tennessee, 3-3. So to go through all of that and then finally get to the mountaintop was really cool.
Yeah, that's again, I don't like the Patriots, but I get it, and I'm happy for you. Like I said, I'm happy for you. It's like seeing someone you're like, damn man. Unfortunately, he was just like the teams that he was with. Hopefully, he can go get one. When you finally got it, man, it was nice. It was good because I felt like we won as fans of you. We're like, damn, like he got his ring. There you go. That's good. But he's still a Tennessee Titan. Just saying,
I appreciate
right? He's still gonna go in the Hall of Fame for the Ring of Honor for Tennessee Titans. I'm just saying. So, but yeah, man. How was it that game? Did you being in the Super Bowl? Was it quick? Was it slow motion? How was just that feeling? Just that of being actually playing the Super Bowl?
Man, it was every adjective you can think of. Awesome, amazing, adrenaline rush, all of those things that you describe, some of the best moments in your life. The Super Bowl fit the bill. And it wasn't only Super Bowl Sunday, it was the whole 2 weeks lead up. For me to never get to that point in the season, like winning the AFC Championship game was unbelievable in Kansas City. And I remember being in the locker room yelling to the guys, like, I finally earned my own way to the Super Bowl. I've gone there. That was going to be my 5th time. And the 4 times prior, I was a family member of Dev. So all of that lead up to practices, to still be playing football at that time of the year where everybody else is in Cancun on vacation, watching the playoff games from the couch, which I had done my entire career, man, it was truly, truly a blessing. And to go out there in that game, and especially you get out there game day and there's every celebrity you can think of is down there in pregame, and you're seeing everybody throughout the course of the week in Atlanta and all of that. And to play in that game, and for me to play one of my best games of my career and make a big play in the game and have an impact, man, it was unbelievable. And I remember my DB coach at the time there, Josh Boyer, had said to us throughout that season was, you want to be remembered. The only reunions they have for teams is when you win a Super Bowl. So if you guys want to do something special, put everything else to the side and go out there and achieve what this team is capable of. And we were able to do that. So it's just, you have those bonds and those friendships no matter what team you're on. Hell, I played with Griff for 7 years. It's one of my best friends from the National Football League, Vern. When you're able to do something like that in the locker room with some of your best friends and get to that level, man, there's nothing like it.
Definitely. And that play was, again, that was a hell of a play if no one remembers that. It was a good block, man. Good block. How'd you
Appreciate it.
you feel in that game, in that moment, because I think even Bill Belichick said it, like that was like the game defining moment, right?
Man, when you're playing, like you're not even thinking, even in that play, like I just get up and jog back to the huddle and you don't think about the moments. And you understood that game was more of a defensive battle. So you know it was a big play. And obviously we blew the coverage on the front side. So being able to get back there and make that play, like you knew it was a big play in the game. But the biggest play for me was they missed a field goal late in the game, and I'm jumping up and down and giving Dev a big hug because it was the moment we realized we won the game. And it was just like, you know you're in the game, but it's just so different when the clock's hit zero and it's just like, damn, I just won the Super Bowl and the confetti's falling and just a surreal feeling. I tell people all the time, as amazing as it is, that next week, I remember going to a Celtics-Lakers game courtside. We went to a Bruins game, went down on the ice, a Red Sox game where somebody threw out the first pitch, and it was the game where Gronk uses the trophy to bunt the ball and all of that. And that was all in the course of the next week after the Super Bowl. And the week after that, I'm doing school drop off and pick up, and it goes right back to our normal life. And Patriots fans are like, all right, when are we going to win number 7? So it's such a fleeting feeling because it's so cool and it's so awesome. But just like that, like you get back to reality, you're just a husband, you're just a dad. So I tell people, as amazing as it is, you realize once you've done it, like it's just your profession, it's just a sport, and it's something to being able to say I reached the highest level and I was the ultimate team game and I was able to achieve that. But it's just like there's bigger things in life, but it was still something really cool from a professional standpoint.
Definitely, man. That's awesome. And again, uh, we're proud of you. You know, I can speak for all
Appreciate it.
Titans fans. How was Tom Brady? How was his presence and just talking to him, seeing him every day, practicing and going against him?
Tom is the man. I first met him. That was the Super Bowl. My brother, my second year in the league, my brother goes, no, my third year. Dev went to the Super Bowl his second year, and there's the friends and family day. And Tom comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm Tom Brady, man. Congrats, man. Really like watching you play." I'm like, Tom, you ain't watching me play, but it was so cool because it was Tom Brady. And then you get in the locker room and the ultimate competitor. Like we're cursing, the defense is cursing Tom out on the sideline. He's cursing you out on the sideline. And he was literally great. He embodied greatness just every single day with how he worked and how he competed in practice. And it was just so cool to be around because the way you watched him and you thought of him, it was opposite when you got in the locker room. Like he was just one of the guys. Like Jules would be cracking on him because of his old man shoes or old man jeans. He'd be playing cornhole in there with Brian Hoyer. If you needed, so you're having a charity event, you need something signed, you ask him, he'd do it in a heartbeat. So he was just a really good dude. And I think that was really cool. And it helped that organization and that team because when people got there, and for one, you see Tom Brady, the best player in the National Football League, outworking the guys in his locker room, but then he's also just one of the guys you can go up to him and bust his chops and just be normal around him. I think it made it really cool. So I tell people all the time, man, awesome dude, love playing with him, love playing against him because it brings out the best in you as well. So he deserves everything he gets. These past 2 days was out there as he got inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. And it was even cooler to see because throughout the years of going to the Super Bowl as a family member, I would see his mom and dad, his sisters and everybody, and to be there and talking to his family about all the years and the games and all of that. Man, it was really cool just to see him in that light and to see everybody there celebrating him.
Nice, man. Nice. Then after the Patriots, right? You went to I think you Dolphins, right?
Yeah, in my last year in Miami.
Last year it was in Miami. And then after that, when did you know when it was time? Did you was there times where you're like, no, I still want to continue playing? You still had love for the game, or did you kind of knew and had other thoughts on your second career?
Yeah, it's never. I won't. It's not an easy decision for anybody. I think it was a countdown for me. Like once I left Tennessee, I thought about retiring when I left Tennessee. When I got to Cleveland, just because, and that's anybody in life. Like change is difficult when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it. And I had only played for the Titans at the time, so and you know the system. But bigger than that, like I could walk in the building in Tennessee, and I knew the people that clean the locker room. I knew all the people in the kitchen that was cooking the food, the training room, the equipment staff. Like, you had deep relationships with everybody in the building. And then you walk into a new building, you don't know anybody. So it takes time. So for me, it was almost a countdown. And then I had a good year in Cleveland. I was like, all right, I can still do this. And then obviously kind of reignited when I played with my brother. But that last year in Miami, I ended up tearing my Liz Frank in my foot. And I knew when I limped off the field that day that was probably going to be my last play in the National Football League, because I knew mentally, physically, I didn't have it to do another major rehab. I think I convinced myself that it was still up in the air because I was trying to get the most out of my rehab just for the longevity of my foot to be able to continue to beat my kids in races and all of that stuff. But I knew at that point, like when I got injured that last year, like that was it. Because when I got to Miami that last year, I'd already decided that the Dolphins was going to be the last organization I played for, just because I wasn't going to move my family again. My daughter had already done second grade in Massachusetts, third grade in Miami. And I knew if I moved again, it was going to be the last move. And we eventually moved back to Jersey. But for her, that was 3 schools in 3 different states, 3 consecutive years. So that's the aspect of the game that, and I'm not complaining because I got the chance to chase a dream and a great job, and you're paid well and all of those things. But those are the dynamics that you're like, all right, like I've done this long enough.
Yeah, definitely. Then we move on after your career is over. Did you ever think about doing broadcast? Because a lot of people like to go, especially players, they like to go to coaching, high school, and they go back to college and do that. How did you land the broadcasting thing?
Yeah, well, I guess it was always something I was somewhat interested in. And I won't say broadcasting itself, but I like talking the game. I like being around it. I didn't mind being interviewed. Devin and myself hosted like an off season of First Take, one episode back in like 2015. Then when we got together in New England, we started our own podcast. There was a point in Tennessee where I hosted my own radio show. So I've always kind of dabbled in it. But when we did our podcast the last 4 years of our career, at that time we were like, all right, let's just do this and see if anything comes of it. And then my last year playing, NFL puts on a broadcast boot camp, and I did that in April after my last year. And at that point, I hadn't fully decided I was done with football. And coming out of the boot camp, I ended up with 3 different job offers. And it was just like, yep, it's probably time to retire. Like, I have something to step into. And that's how it started. I talked to NFL Network at the boot camp, ended up auditioning for Good Morning Football after that. And once they selected me for it, went on and took that job, and then was calling games on the radio for Westwood One my first year being retired. So I retired 1 week and accepted a job the next week and was fully in. And over the course of the last 2 years, I've fallen in love with it. So obviously Good Morning Football has moved out to the West. That's taking care of itself, and looking forward to doing more, possibly games with CBS and doing all of that. But yeah, the broadcasting stuff has been a lot of fun. It gives me a chance to still be around the games and not let wins and losses define me, but just continue to work on my craft and try to get better and be entertaining and informative to fans.
Yeah, that was one thing that was cool, because I feel like Good Morning Football was like the only kind of media outlet for like that would actually somewhat talk about the Titans sometimes, and it wasn't usually negative, so it was nice. And then you hear that you're gonna join the show, and you're like, all right, we got one in there. Like, we're definitely gonna hear about Titans stuff. And don't get me wrong, I mean, you had people talk about the Titans, this and that, but again, being in Tennessee, we the media overlooks us and stuff like that. But just to have one of our own in the spot, we're like, damn, that's what's up. That's what we're gonna get some Titans talk. And again, you backed up the Titans and everything, and you did a fantastic job, man. Like I said, I loved you on the show, man.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I always keep close watch. I prided myself on that as a former player on the team, of trying to tap in and playing in a small market for a majority of my career. So I understood it is different for the Titans. You got to win when you're in a smaller market to get everybody to talk about you. And Jacksonville's the same. There's multiple teams like that are a smaller market team, don't have the same impact of a Dallas Cowboys or a New England Patriots. And it just is what it is. But our show, obviously being NFL Network, you try to hit on all 32 franchises as much as possible, but you also understand like it's TV and you need viewership and all of those different things. But yeah, I loved being on the show. A ton of fun, some great people to work with.
So you did something. The 2023 draft. You first of all, That was amazing. If no one's seen it, I mean, we picked Tajay Spears. I think you were announcing
Yeah.
that. You went on a nice little tangent and kind of did a little roast of your own of the AFC South. And
Yeah.
man, what possessed you to do that? It was excellent. It was like probably the non-athletic thing I've gotten hyped over. It was almost like watching like a speech. I was like, let's go. I was just like so hyped when you were just going in on Jacksonville and Houston. What
Yeah.
what
I,
got you
I,
that?
I would blame Kyle Brandt for that. When I got the chance and found out I was going to be doing that, I was talking to him and Jamie and Peter and our breaks and stuff on the show. And the day I was leaving to go out there, Kyle says to me, "It's just like, oh, like, so what are you going to do for the pick?" And I'm like, "Just going to call the name." And he's just like, you can't just call the name. He was just like, that's why they select us to do it. Like Kyle had did it the year before for the Bills and he killed it. Like the chicken wing, he absolutely killed it. It was awesome. And it was just like, listen, like it's a later round draft pick. Like it's the time of the draft where it gets a little dull. Like Roger Goodell is going to be in there. He wants you to go out there and say something and entertain everybody. So literally when I got on the plane, I took out my laptop and started thinking about, all right, what are some things I can come up with? And that's how it came. The 2 hours flight from New York to Kansas City is where I came up with what I wanted to say and thought about it and came up with it and then went out there and just did my best to land the plane. So it was a lot of fun. And I think everybody understands like it's all fun. Like I have no beef with any team in the AFC South. I threw shots at Mahomes and Kelsey and the Chiefs and their barbecue in Kansas City.
Yeah,
So yeah, it was all fun. And if I ever get an opportunity to do it again, I'd probably do the same. So a blast. My kids now watch the video on YouTube and they think it was entertaining as well. So I got cool points as a dad. So it was all worth it.
definitely, man. Again, with the Houston Oilers drip, you had the Oilers
Yeah.
telling the fans of
My
Houston.
guy Eddie George. And the
Exactly.
coolest thing about it is when I got off the stage, Rand Carthon and Amy Adams Strunk FaceTime me and they were through the roof and thrilled and so happy. So that was really cool for me, just to get that love from them and the fact that they appreciated it.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. All right, before I let you go, because I've been taking too much of your time, and I know you're a busy man. We like to do something. It's fan entertainment. Okay, I like to try to get the fans. They ask questions through Twitter. I do a little poll, and they have some questions for you. After the questions, then you're good to go, man. Like I said,
Okay.
to hold you on more. Okay, and they have some good questions. All right, we have. Now, if there's a question that we kind of went over, we talked about it, we can just kind of skip or just be like, I said this and that, just
Yeah.
beat it like a dead horse. All right. Well, he said, what was it like to finally get to play with your brother? You already talked about that.
Mhm.
Kelly Bean wants to know, what was the process like to learn how to do on-camera broadcasting? And I think we kind of covered that a little bit about.
Yeah, more thrown into the fire. Like there's no like training. My audition was my training, and it's like you sink or swim. So you get out there and you figure it out. You watch the people. I watch the other people on the desk, Jamie, Peter, and Kyle. You learn from them as you go. And I would say the main ingredient is be yourself and have fun.
Definitely, definitely. Colton wants to know, what is his all-time favorite moment as a Titan?
Oh wow, all-time favorite moment. Man, I would probably say my first career interception against the New York Giants at home. I mean, not at home for me at MetLife Stadium. Ton of family in the stands. That was really cool just to get that moment. And it was just like the realization of just like, damn, I'm in the NFL. That was awesome to be a part of because we didn't have the type of team success that I would have hoped. And I would probably say, other than that, there's a picture of sitting on the bench. It was my third year, and I'm sitting with like Cortland Finnegan, C. Hope, and Michael Griffin. And those were the guys that taught me the game. And just that moment of we all kind of realized that was the last time we were all going to get a chance to play together. And that was really cool too.
Okay. Michael wants to know, which one of the position coaches while with the Tennessee Titans was a guy you could lean on but also learn from?
Position coaches, man, there was a lot of really good ones. I'll start out and say my rookie year having Marcus Robertson, who was an Oiler free safety himself, one of the greats. Having him to learn from, and it was something special because he drafted me. So he was a guy that went in the film room and liked what he saw and took a chance to get me to Tennessee. And it's crazy because I called games last year for CBS, and the first ever NFL game I did was Titans versus Saints. And Mark Robb was a DB coach for the Saints. So it was dope being out there in pregame, talking to him, just the way my career went and the success I had. And he was a guy, 6th-round draft pick. And then special teams coach for the Saints was a guy, Darren Rizzi, who recruited me to Rutgers as a young kid coming out of high school. So that was kind of a
Like
full circle
man.
moment. And one room to have both of those guys. So I would say Mark Robb, just the fact that he took a chance on me and brought me in, but a lot of really good, especially DB coaches, Brett Maxey, Steve Brown, and different guys while I was with the Tennessee Titans.
Nice, man. All right. So we have 3 more questions. That's it. We have Titans Fanatic wants to know, what were some of the difference between Coach Fisher and Belichick in regards to how they do things as far as day-to-day, such as practices, daily routines, night before games, as well as game time routines?
Well, I mean, Fish and Bill are like there are no similarities between those two. Like people literally describe Fish as a player's coach. Like that is not how you're ever going to describe Bill Belichick. Like Fish is a guy that you may be down there on a Friday night and you grab a beer with Fish because he's out chilling just as well. That's not Bill. So there's no similarities when it comes to stuff like that. With Fish, my first 2 years, I think we wore our pants in practice, like full pads 2 times. That's including training camp and the entire season. Like Fish just took care of your body. You never wore full pads. With Bill, anytime you could wear full pads, the team was going to be decked out in full pads. That's just the way he did his thing. As far as like routines and stuff, the crazy thing is the NFL is the NFL. Every team I was on, Wednesday was 1st and 2nd down, Thursday was 3rd down, Friday was red zone and 2-minute stuff. So a lot of those things remain the same. When I was with Wiz and Hunt, he changed it up, and Hugh Jackson changed it up where they had Saturday. Friday was more of a walkthrough, and Saturday you kind of put your helmet and cleats on, which I hated that full disclosure, but that stuff was the same. And then in-game stuff is just, there are like each coach is different and each game situation is so different. Every coach goes over it and focuses on it and goes situations and all of that. I will say there was nobody better than Bill Belichick and the Patriots of just how they hammered it home of, you knew exactly when you got in situations, you knew what the call was going to be, you knew what the coaches were thinking, because we just went over it time after time after time. So he was elite when it came to that. But just to throw another guy in there, Dick LeBeau was one of my favorite coaches. That guy was just unbelievable. Didn't yell, straight teacher, one of the best coaches I ever had. And then Greg Williams was a guy who was completely opposite of Dick LeBeau. He was yelling and cursing you out constantly. And then on game day, he was the quietest coach on the football field because he believed in chaos all week. And then on Sunday, you just let the guys go play. So lucky for me, you played 13 years. You get a lot of different coaches with a lot of different personalities.
Interesting. I like that. Ryan wants to know, what's a funny story from the locker room or behind the scenes? I guess. I mean, I think it could be. I think we're trying to shoot for the Titans. Any locker or anything, any shenanigans behind the scenes?
I'll say I started off
Was there any
what?
What's it called? Like hazing back in the day? No.
Of course. What was different when I was a rookie, like you were allowed to do it. It wasn't like anything crazy. But I remember our rookie year at the end of training camp, the vets give you a list of stuff that you got to go buy. We had to get milk, eggs, Gatorade, birdseed, flour, sugar, all types of mustard, random stuff. I'm like, what the, having a barbecue? And you come in that day and like all the media's there, it's recorded, like Fisher's leading it, and all the rookie and first year employees, trainers, interns, everybody, you line up on the goal line. You had to like run, spin on a bat, run some more, spin on a bat, and all the way up to like 50-yard line were all the veterans. And they're throwing Gatorade at you. All the stuff you bought, birdseed, flour, all type of stuff, pegging you with it. And then you got to spin around, get all dizzy and run back. So it was crazy, but everybody's recording this. Like, it wasn't like hidden or anything. It was a part of being rookies and a part of the initiation. In Tennessee, God rest his soul, Rob Baronis every year in training camp would take all the rookie stuff, all your clothes, your sneakers. Now, he would take your car keys, your phone and stuff out your pockets. But in our cold tub, obviously it's freezing, but there was like a ledge around of it for guys to sit on while you're in it, just like a hot tub or anything. You sit and rest, and he would stuff all of our clothes underneath that, and you'd have to dive into the cold tub to get all of your stuff out. So that was the rookie stuff. But I would probably say beyond that was every year at Thanksgiving, when Fish was there, they were prank, and then Munchak carried it on. They would prank the rookies where they would say Kroger's was giving everybody a free turkey to say thank you for the sponsorship and all of that. And the rookies had to go pick the turkeys up, and you had to deliver them somewhere or bring them back to the facility. And every year the rookies would go and you get your turkey and you're carrying it around, and you'd get back to the facility, and everybody in the facility was in on it. Trainers, everybody. And you'd get there and they tell you to open up the box, and it was literally a bag of ice with foil wrapped around it. And everybody was going out, and you think you're getting, people are giving their turkeys away to families that they saw in the grocery store and everything. And the coolest thing about it wasn't like the craziest prank. The coolest thing about it was the prank went back for years, and there would be a video at the end when they would record all of us opening it up with the dumb music playing in the background of you all looking like idiots. And they would have it all recorded all the way from my rookie year to Keith Bullock's rookie year. And they had different people that they would interview and ask them about it at the time, people that still thought it was real, and everybody was ratting each other out. So it was, Fisher did a really good job of stuff like that, of bringing the team together and laughing and having a good time.
Nice. All right. And then our final question comes from David Wonder. He wants to know, how do you feel about the projection of this new Titans team? What do you like the most about our new pieces and the new era of Titans football? And how do you feel? Well, that's another question, but go ahead.
I'm excited. I'm a DB. So you get in an off season and you go out there and you get one of the best DBs, one of the best corners last year in L'Jarius Sneed to go. And then you get Chidobe Awuzie from Cincinnati. Like, you're getting corners that play man to man. And Awuzie was coming off. He had the ACL, and then he played last year and he was healthy. So this next year, I expect him to get back to a form where he was almost playing at an all pro level the year before. Like, L'Jarius Sneed was one of my favorite DBs to watch last year. Not only because he was good, because of the way he competed. Like, we watched him match up with the best receiver week after week, and then Roger McCreary in the slot. And as fun as those three guys are on the defensive side of the ball, when you flip over who they're going to be defending every day in practice, and you get a guy like Calvin Ridley, and you got DeAndre Hopkins on the outside, and they got Boyd from Cincinnati as well, and then hoping that Treylon Burks continues to come along and continues to get better with some veterans in front of you. It's a lot to be excited for. And then obviously you draft a guy like Will Levis, and you go out and you get Callahan, a guy that worked with Joe Burrow and got Jake Browning right last year when Burrow went down with an injury. You're hoping he's able to have some of that same magic. You're shoring up a side of the offensive line with draft picks and Skaronski and later. So there's a lot to be excited for when you have a young nucleus and the right mix of veterans. And now it's about putting it on paper. And there's going to be a ton of pressure, obviously, on Will Levis, because he's the guy that has to go out there and prove himself. But I think when you draft these guys and you surround them with the right support staff and all of those different things, there's a lot to be excited for. So I'm hoping this team can continue to put it together. I can't wait for the Titans to get their Super Bowl, and when they're having a lot of success, I'll be their biggest fan in their corner. So definitely a lot to be excited for.
This is just my personal question. Do you think it was a mistake of firing Rabel? Do you think it was a good decision? What do you think of?
I look at it, and I'm not going to say whether it's good or bad, because whether it was good or bad will be determined of what the team looks like in the next few years. If Callahan goes out there and the team has a ton of success, then I'll tell you it was a good decision. If he doesn't, then it was a bad decision. You can't take away from the success that Mike Vrabel had as a head coach. So we'd all be kidding ourselves if we say, oh, 100% it was a great decision. Like, Vrabel got to the Tennessee Titans and he won football games. It was an AFC championship game. So you have to give him credit in the way he took over and ran that team. So time will tell of whether it was or wasn't. I'll say it was a surprise. And I think that's the thing that you look at Bill Belichick, they're moving on, hiring Gerard Mayo. Like, it goes so far beyond just winning games as an X and O's. There's a lot of personality fits and chemistry that has to go on upstairs between GM, between team president, between head coach, between ownership that we're not always privy to. I was in Miami when Brian Flores had back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in like 20 years in Miami, and then he's fired and Mike McDaniel comes in and everybody, when Flo gets fired, like, what the hell? Like, this guy's actually had success in the last 2 years, but there's the relationships that we don't see. When those aren't flourishing, it's not going to continue to get better. It's only going to go downhill. So teams move in different ways. And Flo was a hell of a coach because he goes to Minnesota the next year and takes one of the worst defenses in the league and makes him one of the best defenses in the league with the Vikings. But you also know for the Dolphins, they feel like, well, we got our guy because Mike McDaniel comes in there and takes the Dolphins over, and he does really well with Tua and the crew. So that's all a part of it in this business. Like, when you don't have all the information, you can, from the outside looking in, I'll say, no, it's a bad decision. Vrabel was successful. You give him a year, you figure it out and you go. But I look at what Rand Carthon's been able to do, and he's had some success early on in the players he's been able to get and the team he's assembling. So Callahan gets in there. You hire a guy like Callahan, and from a fan's perspective, because that's all I am at this point, you're like, well, this makes a lot of sense. This is an offensive coach. It's a guy that coached a good quarterback in Joe Burrow. And when Joe Burrow gets hurt, this team still has success on offense. I know Zach Taylor called the plays, but he's a guy that was in the room with the quarterbacks a ton. So it makes sense. And now it's just a matter of time. If it's a production league in the NFL, you got to win football games. So that's what it comes down to.
All right. Well, Jason, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been a pleasure to watch you throughout your whole career. Like I said, people in Nashville, you're still a Titans fan. You're still a Titans player, a legend in our eyes, and we appreciate everything that you've done, all the sacrifices that you've done too. So just wish you nothing but happiness, man, and keep doing what you're doing, man. We're like I said, we're proud of you.
Hey, man, appreciate you saying that. Thanks for having me on, man.
God bless.